It's a Scott Sands Show.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much for finding this show and me, Scott Sands, on demand on our free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. If you missed it on the show Friday, this is the entire segment with literally a congressional delegation in our Hinsville studios. It was a real honor to have all of these gentlemen join me campaigning for Derek Merrin, who's running for Congress in Ohio's 9th Congressional District. You can learn more at voteformerrin.com. Derek, I'm going to let you introduce everybody. It's great to see you, my friend.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having us on. I brought the all-star team to Toledo, Ohio. We're ready to make this region move forward.
This, if you had one more congressman with you, you would have a basketball team to be able to do a full court press.
We are ready to go, and it's a game set match here pretty soon against Marcy Captor, and we're going to save this country.
Voteformerrin.com is Derek's website if you haven't learned enough about him yet before going into the polls. Derek, you want to introduce everybody for us?
Well, I'm really honored to have Whip Tom Emmer from Minnesota, third-ranking House Republican in Congress. Great to have him here today. And then we have Nathaniel Moran, Texas congressman, serving his first term. And then we have Congressman from Arkansas, French Hill, with us today. And we were out doing a press conference early about unleashing America's energy and making sure that we are going to protect those two big, wonderful oil refineries that we are blessed to have in Lucas County. And they were helping us here today get that message out.
I want to get back to that because it's very important. But Congressman Hill, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I read that you went to Vanderbilt, and as an Alabama fan, I've got a problem now with this happening here today.
I know you're under a lot of stress, but I want to give you a hint on why we're going to win big next week. Because the last time that Vanderbilt Commodores beat Alabama was in 1984, just before the Lagan landslide. So there's a silver lining.
Okay.
For Alabama fans to have this.
If you're trying to give me a little shimmer of hope, I appreciate that.
Modest, tiny, teeny tiny, but nonetheless, go Doors, anchor down.
Thank you for that. Roll Tide, go Rockets, all that stuff. You're Congressman Moran. You're a Texas Tech guy, right?
I'm a Texas Tech guy, but I will have to say I have a daughter in the marching band at Auburn.
Oh,
so
man. Come on.
You're working against two of us on this side of the aisle.
You're killing him.
What are you doing to me here today? Bringing in all of my opponents.
Well, hey, man,
we're all for Derek, though, Scott.
Congressman, right? Congressman Emmer, I think you're neutral. I don't think Alabama or Toledo has ever played University of Alaska, right?
No, they have not. That would be Alabama Huntsville would be the closest you would get to the Alabama Huntsville Chargers would be the closest you would get to the University of Alaska Nanooks. Yes,
we're going to have plenty of time for the important topics, but I'm curious. Did you guys do anything for Halloween last night? Did you pass out candy? Did you wear a costume, Derek?
I did, and I was writing thank you notes, and I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was at Fox and Friends first this morning, so
good.
I was trying to get to bed early and make sure my alarm clock went off at 4 a.m. So,
Congressman Emmer, you guys have probably been on the road, so you may not have had a chance to trick or treat.
Well, we're in costume right now.
Right.
French Hill and I were campaigning in Michigan yesterday. We're in Ohio today, and Nathaniel and I are going to Pennsylvania tonight. So we're in costume for the next 4 days.
Important races in Michigan, too, with my friend Mike Rogers running for Senate, and he's got a great chance to win there.
Yeah, we've got two potential congressional seats in Tom Barrett and Paul Young. So it's Flint, Michigan, and forget the city, the main city in Tom's, but it's these have been Democrat seats. I think they're both going to flip because I think Trump is about to win Michigan.
It's very close. I mean, what are your internals showing for the House races? Where, I mean, obviously, if Trump wins, he's going to need the support of Congress as well.
Well, and it's Scott, thanks for asking. The last time you and I talked, I was running the campaign operation for the House Republicans, which I did in the last two cycles before this one, and we haven't gotten away from it. If you look at all of our swing seats, which is how we built a Republican majority in the House, every one of them is within the margin of error. But as I was explaining to Derek, I'd much rather be us than them because the vast majority of ours are north of the Mendoza line. But the other thing you got going on is Trump is leading most of our candidates. Much like you've been reading, he leads the Senate candidates. It's unusual for the presidential, the top of the ticket, to lead our candidates because those House candidates are the voter identification and turnout machine for everyone up ticket and everyone down ticket. I think what you're seeing, you look at those Trump numbers, the trend all across this country is on Trump's side, and he's been getting stronger since the beginning of October, while Kamala and my awful governor have been going the other way.
That's House Majority Whip, Congressman Tom Emmer. Derek Merrin, what are your numbers showing? I mean, how's the race looking here in Ohio's 9th?
It's going good. You know, our numbers show it's within the margin of error. Trump is going to win this district. You know, his message of lowering the cost of living, securing the border, and standing up to this Washington, D.C. establishment is resonating with people. And that's my message. As you know, Scott, I've been preaching this for a year. We've got to secure a border. We got to lower the cost of living. You can't go out to eat in Toledo, Ohio, with a family of 4 or 5 under $100. It's completely unacceptable. New cars costing now $40,000. I mean, people can't afford this stuff. Cost of insurance. We've got to cut taxes. We got to reduce regulations. We got to stop having the federal government try to run the energy department, energy of the United States. That's what our press conference was about a little bit today. I mean, we have Marcy Kaptur and Kamala Harris that want to tell everyone in Toledo what type of car they're going to drive. They believe everyone should drive an electric vehicle. And if you can't afford an $85,000 Tesla, Scott, Marcy Kaptur says tough. That's what you need to buy, $85,000 Tesla.
Well, the next step is they'll just provide the subsidies for it coming out of our tax money, which really just drives the cost of the vehicle up even more.
Well, Scott, I'm glad you brought that up because we don't even know the true cost of these cars because they're being subsidized. They're even more than $85,000. And, you know, in 1983, when Marcy Kaptur came into Congress, the national debt was $1 trillion. Now it's $35 trillion. And, you know, our region has lost population. We've lost jobs. We've lost so many businesses. And you know what the common denominator is? Marcy Kaptur. Someone who, Scott, she can't stand up to you. She won't even come on your show and debate. She won't even take questions from the Toledo Blade. All she does is hide behind false, slanderous TV ads. And I think people see through it, Scott. They really do.
Oh, she's been in office as long as you've been alive.
Longer. I was born in 1986. So she's has several years on me here.
So you were born after the last time Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
Exactly.
I guess so.
just doing the math here on that. So, Congressman, I'll ask our other Congressman Moran and Hill in studio with me as well. If Derek wins, is there like a hazing process that happens for new House members?
Let me tell you what, Derek is ready to lead in the House. He's been a mayor at a young age. He grew up in a servant family household. He's been a state rep. He understands that economics is where the action is. We want families to be able to afford to go out to eat, and we want to have competitive jobs here. And energy goes into everything, which is why he's put all of the above energy at the top of his agenda. Just today, as we go into the final weekend of this campaign, we saw our economy just grind to a halt. Only 12,000 new jobs created last month. The expectation was 113,000. And if you took out private sector jobs, there was no job growth last month, period, full stop. It went backwards. And under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we've lost 1 million jobs in the last 12 months. So that's why we want Derek in. He understands small business. He understands local government. He understands the power of having people have affordable energy and opportunities for their careers. And that's why he'll be a great congressman.
First of all, it's nice to have another Southern accent here in the studio with me, so I do appreciate that. It's interesting, Derek, or any of you guys can chime in on this. I'm sure you've noticed the cost of gas has dropped to under $3 a gallon here in the last couple of months. I'm sure that's just purely coincidental, but I can't help but notice that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are trying to take the credit for the decrease in gas prices because of their policies, even though when they went up by more than double as soon as they took office, they said it was out of their control. It was because of the war in Ukraine and 1,000 other reasons that it wasn't their fault that gas prices went up. But obviously they're responsible for gas prices going down.
Yeah, Scott, I'm going to jump in on this because I'm from Texas, and there's one thing that we know really well, and that's the energy sector. And we're so proud to be able to stand with Derek. I agree with French Hill when he says Derek's ready to lead day one coming into Congress, and that's what we need because there is a wide gap of difference between Derek and Marcy Kaptur, wide difference. And if you're looking for energy independence in this nation, which is really the foundation of our economic growth, then you're going to get it out of Derek. And those are the kind of policies we need to see. And you're right. The current Biden administration, what they are really good at doing is deflecting any kind of responsibility. They're not going to take responsibility for anything bad going on in the economy, but they're sure going to jump in front of taking credit for anything good going on in the economy. And they are not to be given credit for the energy prices going down right now. This whole permitting issue that they did to stop LNG going overseas was a total mess. In Louisiana, we saw that, and in Texas, we saw that. We know it across the nation. Why? Because it actually empowers our foreign adversaries to be able to step in the gap and to be able to sell their oil and gas instead of us. And so we need to get back to a place where we value the men and women that are in the energy sector. We know Northwest Ohio is a big part of that. We want to be a team player in that and help Derek get to Congress to be able to defend that and promote that.
That's Congressman Moran here on the Scott Sands Show. Derek Merrin, the other interesting thing is we're talking about the energy sector in Northwest Ohio. You've got Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer to the north trying to kill Line 5, which would affect the oil and gas industry in this area too.
Oh, that's a great point. Line 5 is absolutely critical to our oil refineries here. And, Marcy Kaptur continues to stand with the, climate cult and the radical leftists to shut down Line 5, to shut down, fossil fuels. And it's just crazy. It's crazy, Scott. We've got to lower the cost of energy. And if Marcy Kaptur gets her way, if they, she's just like in the groupthink of the liberals. But if they continue to march down their crusade against affordable energy, they're going to take these two refineries that provide thousands of jobs in our community, and they're going to eventually choke them until they die. They're doing okay now, but if Biden, Kamala Harris, and Marcy Kaptur get their way, they want these refineries out, and they're slowly choking these guys. And what's going to happen in this election, there's going to be a lot of union folks in those refineries that rise up and say, you know what? Marcy Kaptur is threatening to the energy industry. She's going to ultimately threaten to lose in my job. And we're going to vote for Donald Trump. We're going to vote for Bernie Moreno. We're going to vote for Derek Merrin. And we're going to have a prosperous Northwest Ohio where we have affordable energy and we embrace oil and gas and nuclear energy. And we don't believe, like Marcy Kaptur does, that we're going to have thousands of windmills in some fantasy land and putting these things in Lake Erie so boaters can, go around an obstacle course as they try to enjoy our beautiful scenery.
Dangerous, but fun. That's Derek Merrin. He's running for Congress here in Ohio's 9th. VoteForMerrin.com. Also honored to be joined in studio by House Majority Whip Congressman Tom Emmer from Minnesota, Congressman Nathaniel Moran from Texas, and Congressman French Hill of Arkansas, all here on the Scott Sands Show. Last segment, you alluded to immigration. I want to go there this segment. Kamala Harris is blaming Donald Trump for killing the so-called bipartisan immigration deal and not making any progress on our border crisis. Congressman Emmer, you can jump in here. I think we would all agree a lot of problems with that so-called bipartisan bill, and yet your House passed H.R. 1 years ago that's been sitting in the Senate dead.
Scott, it's one of the biggest frauds, and there are many of them that these Democrats are committing on the American people right now. When they tell you that somehow Donald Trump and or Republicans killed the quote-unquote bipartisan solution, what they neglect to report, this corrupt media that we have in this country, is that they couldn't even get it to the Senate floor for a vote because they had such a revolt when people saw what was in it. The House passed a bill that had 5 essential elements. Finish the wall. Reform parole, which is the president's ability to determine who comes in and how many every year. Reform our broken asylum system, end catch and release, and restore remain in Mexico, which, Scott, our Border Patrol says if you just do the last one, it'll solve 60% of the problem overnight. What did that so-called bipartisan Senate bill do? It didn't touch any of those things except for catch and release. And what it did with catch and release is it actually codified what Mayorkas has been doing illegally at the border. It said you only have emergency shutdown authority if you have 5,000 plus one a day coming across the southern border. Essentially, that's what this corrupt administration is doing right now. If you've got a terrorist, you've got a criminal. We know there's 13,000 murderers that have crossed the southern border. If they come across the border, you might get detained. But the law says you're supposed to be detained, adjudicated, and then you either go back or you get some temporary status. The adjudication doesn't take place. They detain them and they release them into this country. They don't even know where 2/3 of them are right now, although they do seem to ship them to Illinois and Minnesota and New York and California, places where you have Democrats fleeing because of, real people fleeing because of failed Democrat leadership. At the end of the day, that's why that bill never went anywhere, and no one in this corrupt media will report the truth. And you've got people like Marcy Kaptur and others running commercials that it's the Republicans that killed the border deal. We have a solution for the border. You want to solve the border crisis? You elect Donald J. Trump, you elect Bernie Moreno, and you elect Derek Merrin, and Republicans will get that done.
Congressman Moran, you're in Texas. You're right there on the border. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing exactly what Tom just described. And the difference between the policies of the Democrats and Republicans here is, do you want sound bites or do you want sound policy? We want sound policy that restores the rule of law, that protects the sovereignty and security, the national security of the United States of America. I've been on the border several times, and you just see floods of immigrants coming across passively as though it's just nonchalant. It's just everyday business. And it's a shame, and it's really turned a lot of our Democratic counties along the border to red. And you're going to see that in Texas this year. I know folks are talking about how close that election is, but when you see the results in Texas, I think you're going to see, particularly in South Texas, that things are trending more and more red, more Republican. Why? Because the people in that area, they want to be governed by a rule of law. And that's what we need in this country. We just simply can't have open borders where fentanyl and humans are being trafficked day in and day out simply because it's good business for the cartels. So we've got to restore that order along the border. I can tell you firsthand, been down there several times, and when you go down there, it is a travesty of immense proportions, and it's because the Biden administration does not want to enforce the rule of law. They're looking the other way, and they're actively opposing it.
Derek Merrin in Toledo, in Ohio's 9th. This is a city that was built on immigrants, but the people who built this city, built Toledo, came here legally and started businesses, started families in this community.
They did it the right way, Scott. We have a lot of immigrants here in the Ohio 9th District, and they followed the law, they waited in line, and they honored our system and our laws and our rules. And it's so disrespectful to those people that waited in line and did it the right way to have people just hop across the border. I was just, about a month ago, I was in Yuma, where they actually have charter buses taking people from Yuma to the Phoenix airport and flying these people all around the country. It's a disgrace. Marcy Kaptur's never met an illegal immigrant she didn't want to give an American union job to. And people are so fed up with illegal immigrants being put at the front of the line. You know what? As a congressman, you have an obligation to represent American citizens, not illegal immigrants. And this is another reason Marcy Kaptur's she's run out of room here, Scott. People are fed up with this stuff. The illegal immigration stuff, the men playing women's sports, which is ridiculous, telling people what type of car they're going to drive. We've seen these commercials. 15 congressional districts in Ohio right now, and our district receives less federal funding and resources than all the others. She's a failure. It's all been a facade, Scott, for a long time, and even the media, they can't even hardly protect her abysmal record anymore. We need someone that has some vigor and someone's going to be excited to go to Washington and deliver for Northwest Ohio. And that's why I'm running for Congress, and that's why I need everyone's support here on Tuesday.
Yeah, voteformarin.com to learn more. And remember to vote Tuesday, very important day. What's your top priority if you're elected, Derek?
We got to lower the cost of living. I mean, this is a pocketbook election. I want lower taxes. I want regulations reduced. Let's look at all the regulations that to put a car together that's driving up these cars. The homes, the same thing. We got the EPA and all these federal regulations into home building. It's not the federal government's job to regulate home building. That's a local and state issue. We got to lower the cost of living. We got to balance the budget. We need a constitutional amendment to force the lawmakers to do their job. We've got to protect the U.S. dollar. I've said it 100 times, Scott. The federal government, they're devaluing the U.S. dollar. They're devaluing a $100 bill used to mean something. Now, you just need $100 to go out to Applebee's and provide for your family on a Friday night. We can do better.
Yeah, we're all paying so much more for literally everything. I see state rankings by numbers, and not to point fingers, Congressman Hill, but Arkansas and a lot of states in the South are suffering and hit especially hard by the economy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a report last week where 50% of American families are worse off than in January 2021. And that's purely because of the brutal thief that is inflation. Inflation is the worst tax. It's not even a tax you get to vote for. It's a tax imposed on you by bad government policies. And $6 trillion in new spending authorized by Biden-Harris, which Ms. Capter supported, has created the basis for this 40-year high in inflation. And just last week, because of the worry about the deficit created by his spending, we had Treasury rates go up. Treasury rates are now higher than they were in July after the Fed cut rates. So they have left the economy in bad shape, and that's why a family here in Northwest Ohio is probably spending over $700 more a month than they were in January 2021 for back to school, for food, for sporting goods, for all the things that our families need.
Congressman Emmer, the House resumes session here in, a couple of weeks, right after the election?
Maybe.
Maybe. You got some spending bills to pass. Are we going to get anything done after the election?
We have a deadline on December 20th to fund the government. Our Speaker, Mike Johnson, has made it very clear that he's tired of these end-of-the-year mega omnibus bills.
I think this country is tired of us operating without a budget.
Well, and Scott, if you were privy to the internal of our conference, I think that is to a man.
I haven't been invited.
In our Congress.
You could bring me into those conversations.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure Derek does that right after he's elected. I think
smooth.
you're going to see a lot of the business as usual change. And yeah, we got some things to get done, but we're not going to get them done with Joe Biden and, more importantly, Kamala Harris and Schumer running the Senate. The House Republicans have passed an energy independence bill. We passed the strongest border bill in 20 years. The list goes on what we've done, and they just sit on Chuck Schumer's desk. You're going to have to vote these people out of office. You're going to have to elect Republicans in the Senate, in the House, and you got to put Donald J. Trump in the White House. And then we're going to get to work. And I know my good friend French Hill knows as well or better than anybody, one of the big keys in this next Congress is the tax bill is going to be rewritten. Do you want Derek Merrin doing it, or do you want Marcy Kaptur? French, I think you want Derek.
100%. Look, our small businesses are concerned that do they have the resources when they're suffering from inflation too. So inflation's eating into their ability to hire new people, buy new equipment, and this tax bill next year, which is coming up, which has got about accelerated depreciations, the estate tax if you're a family-owned business or a family-owned farm. The Democrats, led by Harris, want to raise capital gains taxes, want to raise the estate tax on people. They want to raise ordinary income tax rates. They want to do away with small business accelerated depreciation. So I don't even think it's close when you think about the risk if you're a small business person or trying to hire more people in 2025 that you want Derek in the Congress rather than Congresswoman Kaptur.
We certainly don't need 86,000 new armed IRS agents in the field trying to shut down small businesses.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite pet peeves of Biden is auditing people for $600 of cash coming into their checking account.
We don't have $600 of cash anymore under Joe Biden.
Because that's what it costs to go out to eat. But what is troubling is people thought they beat that. The $600 auditing, which I call the babysitter tax. There's no billionaires. It's not a billionaire tax. It's babysitters and house painters on the weekend. $600 in cash could produce an audit. That's what those 80,000 agents are for. People thought they'd beaten that, but it's in the Inflation Reduction Act. That if you Venmo somebody $600, they better have a reason for it, and you're going to have to report it. That's the kind of crazy stuff this administration's for.
Derek, are you excited about writing a tax code? That seems like a lot of fun.
I'm excited. You know, I served as the Ways and Means chairman in Ohio, where we helped to reduce number of tax brackets in Ohio. We significantly reduced taxes. This last budget, we cut taxes by $1.4 billion, $1 billion for individual taxpayers and $400 million for small businesses. Marcy Kaptur, listen, she voted against the 2017 tax cuts. Okay, she's voted to tax Social Security benefits. She's been on record opposing the child tax credit. The child tax credit. I mean, she's never saw a tax that she didn't want to increase. She try to find Marcy. Now, Scott, I know Marcy won't come on your show. She's scared of you. She's scared of you. She's scared.
I'm a big cuddly teddy bear.
You know, she's scared of the Toledo Blade. She can't answer their questions. And did you see, Scott, what the Toledo Blade said? The Toledo Blade came to my defense about a week ago. They said, you know, Marcy Kaptur's ads against Derek Merrin are disgraceful. Disgraceful. And because she can't present the facts and win. She's never what tax is she advocating to lower? None. She just says, oh, you know, we just got to not have, you know, we need to just let the Trump tax cuts expire. It's ridiculous. If these tax cuts expire, every middle class family, I mean, $50,000, $70,000, $100,000, these guys' tax bills are going up by several $1,000s a year. And that's what Marcy Kaptur wants. That's what Sherrod Brown wants, and it's unacceptable.
Extending those tax cuts and the Jobs Act, it's got to be a priority, securing the border the other. I know we've got to wrap things up here. You guys are short on time. Where are you headed? I mean, you got this whole congressional delegation. Where else are you campaigning this week?
Hey, I'm going to a couple of football games this weekend. We're doing door-to-door. We got, I mean, close to 50 people going door-to-door for us right now. We're doing a community event meet and greet in Northwood on Sunday. We're putting it all out on the field, Scott. I love Toledo. This is my home. I've lived here for 30 years. 30 years I've lived under Marcy Kaptur. I love my neighbors, and I'm doing everything I can delivering for them. And for everyone listening right now, I need your help. Toledo deserves better than this. I'm standing up, and I'm fighting these guys. I need you to stand up with me. Get out to vote. Get your family out to vote. Get your friends out to vote, and let's stand up to these guys. Let's stand up to the establishment, and let's turn this area around. We deserve better.
That's Derek Merrin, voteformerrin.com, along with Congressman Tom Emmer, Congressman Nathaniel Moran, and Congressman French Hill, all here on the Scott Sand Show. Let me go around the room. Last question, Congressman Emmer, Ohio State, Penn State.
Pass. Vanderbilt. Look, I'm a Minnesota guy. Why would I ever pick between those two guys? I hope they both lose.
Derek?
Ohio State wins by 13.
I'm going to pass on this too. I'm going to go with my Texas Tech Red Raiders this weekend, and they're going to finally get a good win.
Arkansas beats Ole Miss, goes to a bowl game. Vanderbilt wins this weekend, and because James Franklin's the coach over at Penn State and he left Vanderbilt for it, Ohio State will beat Penn State.
There you go. Guys, thank you so much for coming in.